I'd like to say hello to those that are tuning in. I don't intend for this to be that long. I just wanted to give an explanation as to how I have been proven to be one of the dumbest people in the world by this strike in Syria. Now, I was around a couple of people today. Some call themselves Trump supporters, some call themselves neutral figures, and a wide variety like the idea of these airstrikes. And, I gave them every reason I could for why it was a bad thing, why it wasn't right, why it was insane, all the little different factors. I spoke about the fact that, in my view, the American military is best used when defending the U.S. That when you go into these other countries and get mixed up with people who are doing nothing to you or your country anyway, you're policing the world. American imperialism at its finest. But this fell on deaf ears. One of the individuals tried to argue that Trump was standing up for the casualties in the Syria chemical strike, in spite of the fact that many of these airstrikes oftentimes will go and kill civilians. So let it be known that a person who thinks these airstrikes were valid for retaliation over the demise of civilians ignores the fact that airstrikes very oftentimes kill civilians. So an eye for an eye, effectively. But I've also, I had a video about 2 months ago discussing Trump's State of the Union address, his first one since being in office. And there were a lot of conservatives who ran that video and said, that's a Democrat. He's all for the liberals. He's with that party, that faction. I was actually accused more of being with the Democrats than anything else. And look, they're right. I'm so pro-Democrat that when I saw the response by Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, who advocated that Trump seek military authorization from Congress next time he wants to go around bombing, so they can sign off and put their stamp of approval on it, I rebuke that. I disagreed with that, but look, I'm so party line at the same time, in spite of the fact that I disagreed with what the party leader had to say in response to this. How does that work? Hey, but remember, I'm the dumb one, the guy who sits here and for hours tries to learn about the various ticks and trades of these stories. I'm not smart. The other part of her claim that I disagreed with was that Trump needs to hold Putin accountable for Assad's regime, in spite of the fact that you had the defense secretary, Mattis, admit they have no proof that Assad was behind it. And look, then they start saying, well, we think he is. Another time when the U.S. thought somebody was behind something and then, oops, ended up happening? In 2001, when we thought Saddam Hussein was behind 9/11, and we started the Iraq War. And do you want to know when that war that started in 2001 ended? 2011. So there was a price to pay for rushing to get a person that we didn't have proof on, right? But I'm the dumb one. I don't know what O'Donohue was asking. What's with this? I don't know what that means. Now let's continue. Let's continue to talk about my stupidity, because remember, the guy that sits here and reads up on all of these things is idiotic. But the people who go and start reacting with emotion about, oh, the poor children that died in this chemical attack, I don't really care what happens if the airstrikes go and kill other innocent civilians, because that's my president standing up. And you're a Democrat because you oppose my Republican president, even though you were the same person who criticized his Democratic predecessor for doing the exact same thing. You're definitely only upset with him because he's Republican. It couldn't be because his actual policy, one that's been done by his predecessor and the predecessor before that, was just awful. That couldn't be the case. There were actually a couple of people who are predicting that this may be a very close step toward World War III. And when I mentioned that, people laughed and went, oh. But then you have to remember, who's one of Syria's closest allies? Russia. And what did the Russian ambassador have to say? Does anyone remember? Do any of the 7 people in here recall? Do you remember? No? He said, in response to the U.S. airstrike, such actions will not be left without consequences. Meaning, you attack our ally, we're coming after you. We're warning you. But again, no reason to believe that you're starting an international conflict between multiple countries by sticking your nose in things that have nothing to do with you. Yeah, Envoy. Wait, Envoy, massive repercussions. What are you talking about? You know the U.S. doesn't, is never wrong. They can't just end up ruining some other country and actually expect something bad to happen afterward. That's insane. Envoy, I think you need your head examined. You're starting to agree with me. Remember, we're the dumb ones. We don't actually have any way of actually looking forward and recognizing patterns in history and being able to figure out what actions typically lead to something else. We're insane. This has been America's problem for a long time, trying to police the world. Careful, Envoy, you're agreeing with me. We can't actually think that this is a problem. O'Donoghue, Russia and Syria are allies. Syria was attacked. The Russian ambassador threatened the U.S. afterward. I hope I've answered your question. And also, you can't take anything I have to say for the truth, because remember, I'm not that smart. I just sat here in front of this screen and read this stuff, and I guess I can kind of speak a little decently. I don't know. So I'm glad everyone has now found out that I am anything but intelligent. If you ask me to count to 10, I might be able to do it, but that'll be because someone put up a teleprompter. I'm really glad you guys are finally realizing you're seeing my true colors. Okay, Envoy says attacking Syria with airstrikes, knowing that America and Russia's relationship is on a fine thread right now, would be extremely dangerous. Be careful, Envoy. You're agreeing with me. Remember, you can't agree with people that actually go and read and research these things. Actually, earlier today, I mentioned to someone that being as into politics as I am was probably the worst decision I ever made, because in no other level of disrespect to someone's established major philosophy or thing with which they've studied for a long time would a person face in any other field. So for example, and TYT did a video about this during this past election cycle, you wouldn't have someone go up into an operating room and tell a doctor how to move an artery or how to perform some operation. A person off the street isn't going to tell a truck driver how to operate the vehicle in spite of the fact that he's been doing it for decades or years. But I'm the only person who, along with those who are into the same stuff, that can actually sit here and go and watch this stuff and read on it and research it and have proof and be able to tell you why this is wrong, why that's wrong, and give evidence as to what I think, and still be called an idiot. Still have people say you are not smart. It's only me and people who are educated on this stuff or have actually spent their time to try and read that will be called stupid for paying attention to it. Okay, Marco says, why is it that since Reagan left office, people in Washington, all they want to do is create enemies no matter what their political views are? Hey, be careful. Hey, you're crossing the party line. We can't have that. You're going to end up like Noam Chomsky. Whenever you don't speak against Democrat or Republican, but instead both parties, you get repercussions. You get accused of being anti-American. So you better be careful. We're warning you. Yeah, Chomsky got banned from the Middle East over his criticisms of that region. But I'm glad everyone is now waking up to the fact that I am not smart. Hey, Envoy, be careful. We can't talk about those past conflicts. Well, remember, with Hiroshima and with Pearl Harbor, we actually were attacked first. That's kind of my point, that you have people, and this is what irritates me and what I was trying to convey when I spoke earlier about being educated on this stuff and having people still not take you seriously. A good example is the fact that I have on many occasions stated that I support trying to at least attempting to have free college. If you're not going to do it at the federal level of a president, have it on the statewide level. I know a majority of people won't even pay attention to their governor for more than 2 seconds. But nonetheless, you'll have people who will tell you, no, the U.S. doesn't have that kind of money. We don't have that kind of cash. When a lot of these students are getting out of school with with tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and then the U.S. can send under Obama $3 billion to Israel, but we don't have that kind of money for that. Defense spending increases. We don't have the kind of money for doing anything on the domestic level. That's insane. I actually did a video about it a little while ago. I don't have the stat on hand. Just know that the U.S. are the good guys. We do nothing wrong. In spite of the fact we support over 70% of the world's dictatorships, we're the heroes. That's all you need to know. And if you think I am correct on the fact that we should take care of or rather, on my opinion, that we should take care of people in our own country and not try to mix ourselves up in conflicts with other places around the world, you might not be that smart. Neither am I. That's already been proven by today. America gets away with that. Why? Because of patriotism, going around believing they're untouchables. They brag about having the baddest and strongest military in the world. Yeah, I've already aired my grievances with the American military. It's abysmal. But I think I've already talked about the military-industrial complex, where a lot of people will think we're having these wars so we can do something patriotic and heroic to help out other countries or other parts of the world, when in reality, the people who make these weapons, such as the bombs or the tanks or whichever other weapon we add to our arsenal, advocate for those wars so that those weapons can be used and they can get paid off of the fact that we're using these weapons. Yeah, CX Saberwolf gets it. Actually, no, I take that back. You and me don't get it. We're both not that very smart on this. And so you may have actually sat there and read about this and seen the numbers and the facts, but ignore that, because people, their opinions are so valid. I actually had a person who said, I just have an opinion. Why are you getting mad at me for just having an opinion, for thinking that the Syrian airstrike was good? It's just an opinion. And I told them, people can have opinions about all kinds of things, but generally when someone has an opinion, they usually switch or change it after some fact has been proven to dissuade that opinion. For example, if I were to say that the U.S. never backs dictatorships, and then someone, that's my opinion, I don't think the U.S. backs any dictatorships, and then someone, airs out that we support over 70% of the world's dictatorships, I'm going to have to switch my opinion, or it's going to look irrational and not make sense, which is how I feel about people liking these airstrikes that don't have anything to gain from it. I think these politicians who sit up here and gain cash off of the military-industrial complex are right. What is this? CX Saberwolf says, having an opinion doesn't make you right if it's not a fact. Well, again, it's not about having the facts. Look, there have been correlations about levels of awareness that people have done polls in this, where you'll have people who are more aware of an issue, that are more likely to support a certain position. That's been done a couple of times. What I'm talking about is when you have, informed conclusion. And again, these people that you talk with, they ignore what has been the practice and just act off of feelings. So, for example, yes, it is awful that the chemical attack happened, but no, we don't have evidence that it was the Syrian regime that did that. And we know that because the defense secretary admitted, we don't have evidence. We're just going off of our conviction. Your conviction doesn't automatically create proof, as I'm sure Saberwolf would agree with me on. So that's effectively what I'm trying to conclude here. And look, I don't know if World War III will start from this. I'm only telling you the fact that Syria and Russia have better relations than Russia and the U.S. and Syria and the U.S. And the Russian ambassador gave us a very threatening response, I would heed his words. That's the problem with a lot of what's going on right now. That I'll sit here and air out proof as to why a position is wrong, or why it's less likely to be the case. And this person will see, these people, they get this one idea in their head, and they just completely shut off anything that could possibly happen. Why get mixed up in countries that have nothing to do with you? Need I remind all of us about USSR and the Cold War? Hey, you can't speak about that. Why get involved in things that do not pertain to you, other than financial gain? I don't criticize members of the military-industrial complex for backing wars. They have something to gain. But the guy down the street is going to defend this because he likes the way Trump speaks. Doodleman asks, do you think it's the end times? I don't know what you mean by that. And in response to the ghost, I think we've established that by now. It's not even relevant to this stream. Cold War II. Yeah, and people don't see it. They don't want to recognize something until it's too late. And I guess that's kind of the role I've been tired of playing. I feel as if I'm just here to warn and, maybe have a couple of 5, 6, 7 guys that'll actually take what I have to say seriously, and everybody else just kind of push out. I think he means, does this mean a war is coming? I don't see how one doesn't occur. If we keep doing these airstrikes and attacking people without any proof, I don't see how you don't have a conflict that turns into a war. People think it can't happen to them. You imagine walking outside your house one day. You've had this president in office for a year or two. He just decides he wants to strike random parts of countries because he feels like it. And you see some giant nuke coming down. And remember, the Cuban Missile Crisis was 56 years ago, 55 years ago, almost 56. So imagine how much technology's improved since then. And people want to keep playing around. They want to keep going, oh, it's just the carnival. Oh, Trump called this person that. I don't care about that. This stuff with Stormy Daniels and Comey, none of it matters. Yes, it's entertaining sometimes. But remember, that's all in that same day of him saying all this stuff about Comey and having people laugh and go, hee 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 hee. You had this airstrike. And people don't follow that. They don't value the importance of taking these weapons of destruction, whether it's the firearms we have currently that are causing mass shootings every day across the U.S., or the bombs and missiles that can drop and kill thousands and thousands of people in hours. It doesn't matter to them. People are too busy going online and watching all this other stuff. No one's paying attention. And the few of us that are, we're not enough. So I really would like a more optimistic message to leave you off on. I just can't think of anything. But I hope you have realized that, according to the Trump supporters and other people who don't pay any of this as much attention as me, I'm the fool.